Welcome to a new series. I'm Len Topic here on Unprecedented TV. And as a new show for you, one that if you're a petrol head, you will absolutely love. Full Throttle, trains, planes and automobiles and everything else too, where we talk about transport and related issues. This is in response to what I might suggest is the endless persecution of people on four wheels and two in the sky and on the seas, all because of ideology. Well, we're going to kick that ideology out of the park by talking common sense, science, and personal and human rights. The purpose is not to really have a go at other people, but to stand up and be counted in a common sense, science-based, factual way that respects your rights as a citizen and your right to get in a car and drive it, and also to fly away on holiday. Regular viewers know that I, Len Topic, do not believe there's a climate emergency. I think that carbon dioxide is the gas of life, but it's been used to clobber drivers and many others. Hence this show. It's a regular series, and it won't be presented by me. It'll be presented by somebody far more experienced in the world of automotive campaigning, and that is Brian Gregory from the Alliance of British Drivers. Brian, welcome to your own show. How's it feel?
Nerve-wracking, Lembit.
Why though? Why?
Well, it's a whole new experience. I mean, with this series, we're going to talk about a lot of issues, and we're going to drill down and find out all of the strange things that are being done, the proposal for road user pricing and constant caps on speed limits, increasing use of technology to discourage you from driving. Where does that all arise from, and how much real science is there behind it, and how much is it just pure ideology? You know, that's the question. When you start actually drilling down and stripping off the skins like of the onion, you find that at the center of it, what it's about is it's not about saving the planet. It's not about saving you. It's about ideology, control, and megalomania. It's the only way to describe it.
It's exactly how I feel about the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. ULEZ, ultra low emission zone. That must drive you crazy. The idea that cars were killing people. Well, they do knock people down, but frankly, pollution from cars, you actually suffer more pollution when you go into the London Underground, and that's a fact.
It is absolutely a fact, yeah. And of course, the other thing is that Khan's policies of gating traffic and filling the centre of London with bus lanes and cycle lanes just reduces the amount of available road space and inevitably causes more congestion and higher emissions. If he wants to really get things moving, he needs to actually get traffic moving at above 30 miles an hour, because that's when the emissions really fall off. Instead, he's doing the opposite and forcing traffic to go at almost walking pace, which massively ramps up the emissions.
The irony in all of this, of course, is that Sadiq Khan's congestion charge seems to have increased congestion. It's the most congested major city in the world, I'm told.
It is, absolutely. And it's all down to Khan's policies, which are anti-mobility, anti-freedom, anti-liberty. They're just inexplicable to anybody who isn't totalitarian.
And do you see yourself as a libertarian? Do you see the show as libertarian?
Absolutely, very much so. I mean, we get all this stuff about far left and far right now, but I don't recognize that as a political dimension anymore. It's about totalitarian versus libertarian. I see myself at the libertarian end of the spectrum, and far right and far left have actually done that, and they've come together somewhere over there in the total command, total control, totalitarian sector. And we need to oppose them because they're I'll paraphrase it, they're back poo bonkers.
Okay, that's an interesting phrase. It's probably as arcane as this next scene. This is the good old days of rear wheel muscle.
Buckingham leads the pack down Mulsanne Street. From above, you can see the Fords accelerating up to 220 miles per hour down the 3.6-mile straightaway, so remarkably fast, they soon move out of range of the camera helicopter. From more than 200 miles per hour, Bucknam must quickly decelerate to less than 30 miles per hour in order to negotiate a sharp right-hand turn.
Ah, the good old days. Le Mans Ford GT40. Are you old enough to remember those?
I'm very much well able to remember those. And I remember this one, the petrol blue and orange livery, which, I mean, it's washed out there, but it looks gorgeous in the flesh or in the metal.
Yeah, in the metal. I don't think they made them biologically.
No, not at that stage.
I resent the fact that they put a chicane on the long straight. I just think that's wrong because they were going at 220 miles per hour there.
Yeah.
I take it. Well, will you be covering this kind of thing on the show?
I'm sure if we've got the opportunity, we will cover snippets like that and other more, I won't say relevant, but more penetrating stuff really than that. You know, which is great. It's lovely to watch, and it's a trip down memory lane. But we've got pressing issues that really need dealing with, and watching old videos is good as a reminder, an aid memoir. But the other stuff we have to deal with is more pressing and in many ways more dangerous for us.
Are you talking about electric cars that seem to sink ships?
Well, yeah, that's one of those things that certainly is the case. I mean, there's a litany now of roll-on, roll-off ferries that have gone to Davy Jones's locker because one of these things is suddenly self-ignited and then set off a chain reaction and takes the whole of the ship down. And of course, once the fire starts, it's almost impossible to put out. And even if the ship goes down, it'll still the conflagration will still burn underwater. It doesn't need external oxygen to keep continuing.
Is that what's happening in these ships then? So you've got electric vehicles that essentially act like firelighters.
Yes, they're basically sort of randomly self-igniting mobile crematoria. You know, and so once one goes off, any other vehicles in the vicinity will take the fire conflagration from it and just spread it. And of course, the more EVs there are, the worse it gets. And a lot of these vehicles had a lot of EVs on the car deck. Yeah. And in fact, now some of the Norwegian ferry service providers won't carry EVs. And in fact, I think one of the major freight companies that was announced recently, they won't carry EVs anymore either.
They're literally refusing to carry them. How do you move them around the world then?
You have to find another carrier who's prepared to take the risk, I imagine.
It's a pretty big risk, though. Then there's the other general danger, it seems to me, of just endlessly persecuting drivers as a whole. I think one of the things that Alliance British Drivers talks about is defending people against the never-ending litany of restrictions. And yes. I think one of your campaigns was about this. Tell us about this.
Well, exactly. All of these policies are around actually reducing your ability to move about from place to place to sort of corral you in a 15-minute city. And of course, Canterbury and all sorts of places have tried to do this. Oxford's continuing to try to do it, but there's a mounting level of public opposition to this. And ultimately, come the next sort of council elections, places like Oxford, I think there's going to be a major change in political affiliations as people realise that they don't want these climate change numpties in control. They want people who actually understand the real world and understand how towns and cities work and how commerce works. Because if you keep stopping people being able to travel around, well, they don't go anywhere. They don't spend in local shops or local shopping centres. And you're just in a downward economic spiral then.
So in terms of road vehicles, would you consider yourself to be, where would you think of yourself on the spectrum in terms of electric vehicles, petrol, diesel?
I am very strongly in favour of internal combustion engine vehicles. The level of emissions coming out of modern petrol and diesel vehicles is actually much lower than the aggregate emissions from a battery electric vehicle, because of course they're much heavier, typically carrying around about 1,000 kilos of battery. And that means that the tyre and brake particulate emissions are way, way worse than a petrol or diesel car. And of course, the tailpipe emissions, all you've done is transfer them to a gas-fired power station somewhere near you. Because most of the time, the vehicles are running on gas or a bit of nuclear or interconnectors. They're not running on renewables because a lot of the time the renewables are turned off and the renewable energy providers being paid to curtail because they can't take that power on the grid because the grid doesn't need it at that time.
Unfiltered, uncensored, unprecedented TV.
We're talking with the new presenter for the new show. That's Brian Gregory from the Alliance for British Drivers. And it's not just cars you'll be talking about. You'll be talking about other forms of transport too. Brian, good news. My team looked around for an example of a train system which is very well managed by people. Do you want to see it?
Yes.
So how fast do these trains actually go? I measured the distance for one floor plank and checked how fast it would cross it.
Now that's how you make a train set work. Thing of beauty, I think.
Absolutely.
But it's not like that. Not like that in real life in Britain, though, is it?
Certainly isn't. I can testify to that. For last weekend as well, I went up to Chester Street, which is near where I live, to meet some friends for a couple of beers. And basically, the trains were largely cancelled because a bridge had collapsed in between Durham and Chester Street. I had to get to Durham, get a bus from Durham, and the reverse on the way back. Our rail transport system is almost as antiquated as our road transport system. It's been underinvested in for a long time, despite getting huge. I mean, typically around 20 billion a year is funneled into the rail network, but it doesn't seem like it's getting back into the infrastructure for some reason, much as our roads. I mean, we essentially, motorists are paying over £1 billion a week to government, and there's certainly not £1 billion of investment going back into roads. They're just being used as cash cows, while the asset is being gradually run into the ground, basically, and it's collapsing.
It is tragic.
It is.
And we're so dependent on the roads, and yet they try to force us into the railways. There's no way on earth that we could travel around this country very easily just on railways. And also, I travel a great deal, partly for political reasons. It's far more expensive on the train most of the time than driving the car. You can go into cost per mile and everything else. But frankly, if you want to go from here to Norfolk and back, it's going to cost me half the price, probably, if I drive carefully. But the railways themselves, I do love traveling by train. It's just so expensive.
Yeah. It is, absolutely. And again, it's in some senses, there's an ideological thing to it, really, that I suspect that a lot of the money going to the service providers actually never finds its way, as I say, back into the infrastructure and is just raked off to pay shareholders. I'm not. I would never consider myself to be a socialist because, as Margaret Thatcher said, socialism is a good way to run out of other people's money. But I do think that infrastructure, roads, railways, water, electricity should remain in state, or at least in the hands of companies that have British shareholders, not somebody outside who's only interested in returns rather than efficiency.
Interesting you should say that, because I was very sad when British European Airways and British Overseas Airways Corporation, you have to be pretty old to remember those,
remember them both,
were privatized in, I think, 1974. I was 9 years old and I thought, no good will come of this. Yeah, I'm just going to take a trip down memory lane. Indulge me with this one. Watch this. Do you remember these? Do you remember these aircraft? I think it's from Heathrow Airport. The trusty Trident.
That is
great. Those great old planes used to fly us to Spain and back. The good old days. That's Heathrow Airport, 1966, 1972. Yeah. But will you be covering modern day aviation as well?
Yes, where it becomes relevant, because of course the aviation industry is under huge scrutiny as well because of the emissions from effectively their tailpipe emissions is the only way to describe it, really. The carbon dioxide that's emitted from the tailpipe when hydrocarbons are being burned. But it's the most efficient way of transporting people. I mean, the turbines now are very, very efficient, and they're designed for maximum cruising speed with maximum economy. And I heard some nut job environmentalists recently suggest that we should fly the planes slower so they burn less fuel. But actually, when you fly them slower, they burn more fuel. I mean, and this shows the level of intellect of these people. Numpty is, doesn't even begin to describe it. They are, stupid.
Yeah, be careful about the language. We try to keep it fairly clean, or we have to put a warning at the beginning of the show. Did you know that a fully laden A380, that's the double-decker aircraft that you see in the skies, particularly over the larger airports in Britain and in the world, a fully loaded one does 80 miles per gallon per person. So if you drive to work on your own in an ordinary car, traveling in an A380 to work would be twice as efficient. But that's the modern day. That's the modern day equivalent of the jumbo jet. We're seeing one there. Oh, I love aeroplanes. I think they're great. I'm very glad you're going to be covering that as well. I might watch the show myself. What kind of a guest are you expecting? There's rumours that Brown Car Guy might be coming on. Tell us about him.
Brown Car Guy is a really good blogger. He writes really interesting stuff on developments that are taking place within the law, technology, and also covers meetings at sort of vintage car meetings and stuff like that. He covers the whole automotive gamut, really, and he's got some very sensible views. He tries objectively to road test electric cars, or BEVs, whatever you want to call them, in comparison with conventional internal combustion engine vehicles. But I think the one thing that he and I both share is the sense of involvement and immediacy that comes with petrol and diesel cars, and it's just completely absent in the electric cars. It's there's no sense of involvement. It seems very detached in comparison with driving a proper road going petrol or diesel vehicle.
Here's a taste of Brown Car Guy in his favorite environment, which is telling us the facts.
Are there still any truly bad cars? Well, it's an interesting argument, because I was recently doing a podcast with my former motoring Middle East buddy who was in town, and it was just such a joy and so wonderful to catch up with him. And inevitably, we decided to do a little podcast together. And we had this discussion on there about cars and car reviews and what have you. And he made a very pertinent point, a very valid point about whether or not there are actually any car reviews anymore, or whether it's just, fluff, whether it's just advertorials, And he's probably right about that. But I also counter that with the point that, well, on the other hand, there are no bad cars anymore. And to be honest, this is something that I've been saying for a while, probably for about a decade I've been saying this now. And I feel that I have good reason and good justification for saying that, which I will explain. But I got called up on it. I got pulled up on it by people saying that that's not true. So I thought, okay, well, let's have a look at this and let's examine the concept that there are no such thing as.
Are there bad cars?
I think a lot of it's in the driver experience and what you're expecting. I mean, cars often that get the highest ratings are not necessarily the ones that people who like performance drive. They're ones who just like something that gets them from A to B, but they're not very exciting to, I suppose somebody who might arguably, classify me as a petrol head, I would probably find them a bit dull. So I think the beauty is in the eye of the beholder in many cases, but there's a wide spectrum of road users out there, and we should try and cater for all their needs. And this is what I detest about this one size fits all. You must drive an electric vehicle, and we will not allow you to buy a conventional vehicle. I didn't vote for that. I don't know anybody else who did vote for that. And frankly, if it comes to it, I will go to America. I will buy a car and have it shipped back here, because I know that as long as good old Donnie Trump's around, I can buy a Mustang and import it into the country.
Wrong hand drive, though. Wrong hand drive.
Yeah, well.
I see you in a Ford Mustang. That's interesting. There was some debate about whether to have a Mustang in the opening credits. Who knows? Maybe that wheel was one of them. I don't think it was. You made a special request. We're doing this for you. Maybe it hasn't got the same high octane sound as your show, but for some reason you wanted this. Oh, and so before we go further, you've got Brown Car Guy hopefully coming on in one of the first two series.
Well, hopefully, yes. Him, Jeff buys cars. There's another guy does a lot of road tests, number 27. He's called on YouTube. We would like to get him on, but also, I mean, a lot of what's coming on down on our heads is based on energy policy. And we'd like to talk to people like Catherine Porter at whatlogic.com and David Turver, who are experts and are basically forensically, what's the word I'm looking for? Forensically dissecting the government's energy policy and finding it very much at fault. And these people are energy experts, and they just can literally, well, Miliband wouldn't dare go on with them, because they would basically just eat him up and, spit him out.
Last word to you then. I will disappear and I'll leave you for the first time, Mr. Presenter, to talk the show out to what we call the outro, the final credits. By the way, thank you for letting me introduce your show. I hope you have many, many happy years with Full Throttle. So over to you, Brian. You tell the audience whatever you want.
Okay, well, thank you for the intro and for getting things off the ground for us, Lembit. I very much hope that you will join us again on Unprecedented TV or the archive for Unprecedented TV. Watch out for more episodes, and we will be inviting some interesting, knowledgeable people to give you insights into some of the stuff that we're being told that amounts to nothing better than propaganda, and they can forensically dissect that and tell you what the real truth is. So keep your eyes peeled. We'll be back soon. Thank you.